You know, I probably don't need to tell you this, but I've never really been much of a sportsman. Just a quick review of the content I make should make that fairly obvious. However, one thing I've always been kind of fascinated with is sports video games. I actually have a decent number of them in my collection, courtesy of my older brother. You've got, of course, the big name franchises like Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, all of those. Now, they aren't really my bag, but I do have to respect them a little because, as annoying as it might be to die-hard gamers like myself, these games do seriously kind of prop up the industry. But you know, hey, whatever gets you to buy a console in the first place is alright with me, I suppose. What I have always been interested in is the wide world of sports games that aren't trying to be a simulator for the real thing. Because at their core, they both do and don't have any real reason to exist. Video games are something you do inside, away from, big open fields and sunshine that you normally need to play sports in. I don't play sports because I am a lazy, unathletic man who likes to avoid the sun. If I wanted to play a sport, I could just play a sport. I play video games to do stuff I can't do in real life, like capturing random animals and making them fight, or being a Japanese high schooler with demon powers. That's where these sports games come in, because I can't play sports in real life either, on account of being a lazy, unathletic doughboy who hates the sun. But I can play them in the video game world, where actual physical skill and ability aren't required to nearly the same level. In a sense, sports video games form the two separate halves into one yin-yang, coming together to form something better than they were apart. There are all sorts of these games, including ones that let you play sports you can't really play in real life, like Quidditch or Rocket League, which I guess I could play in real life, but only once. Those can all be really fun in their own right, but there are also a ton that let you play more traditional sports, and a lot of those are really great. I've always been partial to the humongous entertainment backyard sports games. And naturally, there are tons of spin-offs of famous video game franchises, like Mega Man Soccer or Kirby's Dream Course. Does this count as golf? I'm going to count it as golf. As I am, at the core, a red-blooded American, I am at least a little honor-bound to love baseball. Even though I don't watch it, play it, or even fully understand all the rules, I'm pretty sure if you zoomed into my DNA with an electron microscope, you could find the words "baseball equals good" carved into it somewhere. Which means today, we're covering one of my all-time favorite sports games, Mario Super Sluggers. Mario is, of course, the GOAT when it comes to sports games. He's been doing this bag longer than anybody. The oldest is technically NES Tennis in January of 1984, but he was just the line judge, not a real playable character. That wouldn't come until May of 1984 with NES Golf. Apparently this guy is supposed to be Mario. But if that isn't good enough for you, Famicom Golf Japan Course would release 3 years later in 1987. Mario has been on a lot of sports escapades over the years, some of which have become staple Mario spin-offs. Technically speaking, racing is a sport, which means all of Mario Kart is a sports game, and some of those routinely outsell some of the main series Mario titles. Even if we don't count that, tennis and golf games have been running since the NES, as we've previously established, and they are still going on right now. Mario had a brief edgy streak where he got really into soccer for a little while, and he went to the Olympic Games so many times with Sonic the Hedgehog that it's still kind of weird to me they haven't made a new one of these since the 2020 Olympics. But hey, maybe they're just trying to forget that year even happened. I know most of us are, I don't know. Maybe we'll see him again for the LA Games in a couple of years, who knows? I mean, can you blame the guy for skipping France? Yet, baseball is kind of weird in the Mario lineup. There are 3 baseball games that Mario has made an appearance in. The first one is specifically in the Game Boy release of the NES baseball game, which was actually a launch title for the Game Boy in Japan alongside Super Mario Land and Tetris. Mario, though, is not in every version of that game. He's only the pitcher in the Western release. A little amusing anecdote I found out about NES Baseball while writing this script is that this game might have seriously contributed to saving the entire console and by proxy the entire Western video game market. Many know that in 1983 the video game market crashed so hard after years of poor quality Atari slop, and that the release of the NES is the key product that saved the market from dying out entirely. NES Baseball, as one of the 18 launch titles for that system, was apparently used quite heavily in marketing for the NES. The thought process was that games like Mario and Ice Climber were dealing with sort of fantastical elements that not everyone is going to immediately grasp and understand. But baseball? In 1980s America, everyone knows baseball! Seeing America's pastime rendered in stunning 8-bit graphics supposedly helped put the general public at ease and made them more willing to give a game console a chance. Nintendo were so certain that this was a winning marketing strategy, they were able to get New York Mets stars Mookie Wilson and Ron Darling out to do some promotional events, play the game on a big projector, and sign some autographs, and some people definitely came to that event looking to meet a baseball player and walked away with a new game console. Returning to the present a little bit, Mario got his own specifically dedicated baseball game, Mario Superstar Baseball, on the GameCube back in 2005. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because, truthfully, there's not much to say. It is pretty much just a baseball game. But hey, just listen to that intro. It's wonderful in its simplicity, and it has played on a loop in my brain for the past 20 years. Now, there are some interesting things I could talk about, but why do it with this game when its sequel, Mario Super Sluggers for the Nintendo Wii, expands upon basically everything it does across the board? When you first turn on the game, you get this sick animation of Mario and the gang arriving on an island full of baseball stadiums to, play some baseball. I already mentioned how great the intro animation for the last Mario baseball game was, and this one is arguably just as good, though I question why playing baseball in the Mushroom Kingdom requires you to magically polymorph Wiimotes into sporting equipment. Part of the reason I want to cover Super Sluggers over Superstar Baseball is right on the main menu, Challenge Mode. The GameCube had something kind of similar, but it is, at the core, just playing a lot of baseball. You pick a team captain, you beat all the other captains at least once, then you challenge Bowser. That is a bit reductionist, I'll admit, but the point is that Super Sluggers does something just a little bit more. It has a full, single-player story mode that requires you to do a lot more than just winning a series of baseball games, and that makes it really interesting. One thing I'm learning about myself as I've made more and more videos on old video games is that I really appreciate when a game does more than it really has to. All Super Sluggers need to do to be a great Mario sports title was to just copy and paste the last game, throw in a handful of more Mario characters, add in some trademark Wii motion control, and then boom, you're done. Instead, it gave us a baseball-themed adventure mode with its own little story and world. That story starts out by Mario and Luigi arriving at Baseball Kingdom. Apparently, Princess Peach built this artificial island so everyone could play baseball together, which is some hilarious lore if you apply a single ounce of logic to it. Did she use her own money for it, or is this coming out of the Mushroom Kingdom taxpayers' pocket? How many toads are going to go hungry because Princess Peach needs her own artificial island to play baseball on? And if she was going to do that, why would she build a baseball stadium dedicated to a greedy pig she doesn't even like Wario? All jokes aside, you can probably guess what the plot is. Bowser Jr. shows up with his gang of degenerates and starts causing problems, and it's naturally up to us to solve them with baseball. Unfortunately, we only have 2 guys on our team right now, and a full baseball team requires 9 players. So we're gonna have to recruit some guys. This is what makes Super Sluggers so cool compared to the last game. In Superstar Baseball, you were given a team of 9 and could only really recruit most of the other players by getting lucky enough for some random challenge flags to appear, and then get lucky enough to complete them, and then win the game. There's a lot of RNG to it, and it really wasn't that satisfying. In Super Sluggers, we have to go track down these guys and figure out how to get them on our side. Some will join us automatically, like Luigi, but most will require us to do something, namely, complete a fun baseball-related challenge. Some of these challenges are pretty basic, especially the first few in Mario Stadium, but there are a few that can get frustratingly difficult. One that I always struggle with is hitting the ball to a specific outfield. Timing your hit just right to get the ball exactly where you want it is possible, but can be quite difficult. Super Sluggers rewards you getting good like that with new players, which is a really fun way to do things. Another thing I really like about how Super Sluggers does things is that you can't very easily clean out one park and then just go to the next, which is how I usually did things in the GameCube game. You see, you don't play entirely as Mario here. Rather, you gain the ability to switch between the 5 non-Bowser team captains, and each captain has their own abilities that are required to meet players. While that's a good enough concept on paper, it does kinda feel like they weren't entirely sure how to implement it in action, because some of these powers are pretty weird. Mario is the only one who can go through pipes for some reason, and also has the ability to yell his name into plants sometimes, I guess? Donkey Kong can break crates and barrels and climb vines, which means he makes a lot of sense, but the others, not so much. You'd think that Yoshi would have something that uses his tongue, but instead, he can ground pound, which I guess is an ability he's used before? Then you got Peach, who apparently got the worst Captain Planet power, Heart, and Wario has the magnificent power of owning a magnet. You barely even use this one, which is kinda odd. I also want to talk about the cast of playable characters here. I know Mario Kart World has massively skewed people's perception of what is and isn't a reasonable amount of Mario characters to include in a spin-off, but Super Sluggers does a great job representing the cast for 2008. You got all the mainstays, of course. I already mentioned the team captains, and all of their obvious side characters are their team sub-captain, and Birdo for some reason. After that, there are the standard mass amounts of characters you expect, like a rainbow of Toads and Shy Guys, Goombas and Koopas, all that sort of thing. But there are a few here that are pretty wild to run into back in the day. You got a bunch of the baby versions of characters, and not just Baby Mario and Luigi, but also Peach, Daisy, and DK, but not Baby Wario, despite all of those guys appearing in Yoshi's Island DS. The greatest oddities in this cast to me are the fact that this game contains multiple characters that have since been abandoned by Nintendo for over a decade, and only one of them has actually managed to make his way into a video game in the past 10 years. Toadsworth is featured pretty prominently on Peach's team, which is a real blast from the past because this guy hasn't been in a new game in years. So long as you aren't counting his appearance in the Switch remake of Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, because you know, it's a remake, Toadsworth's last appearance was Mario and Luigi Dream Team for the 3DS, which is currently a 13-year-old game. He's not the only relic in this game either. I want to know who is responsible for planning out DK's team, because they did half the job pretty well. Donkey Kong himself, who's so big and bad he has to punch baseballs instead of using a bat. Diddy and Dixie Kong, obviously. Baby DK is fine, but kind of an odd pick. And then my boy, Funky Kong. He uses his surfboard to bat, and that is super cool. But that still leaves a big hole in his roster, which they decide to fill first with Tiny Kong. You know, Tiny Kong, a character who has previously been in one whole main series Donkey Kong game, and also apparently in Diddy Kong Racing DS and Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, but I don't know anyone who's actually played those games. Then, rounding out Donkey Kong's roster is King K. Rool and his critters. Characters who, after this moment, would not be seen again until Smash Ultimate released. For over 10 years, they lay dormant in the Donkey Kong franchise after last showing up to play a few games of baseball, which is absolutely wild to me. Exploring the various ballparks, finding ball players, unlocking secrets, and solving the Bowser Jr. challenges encompass the majority of the game, and doing all of that is a lot of fun, even if, truth be told, there's not actually that much to do here. I beat the whole game and unlocked every single character in only about 4 hours. It's a short adventure, but it is a fun one. The true fun of the game is obviously in the playing of baseball, which I realize I haven't talked about too much. Listen, this is a Wii game, so you can probably already guess how some of the gameplay shakes out. You gotta move the Wiimote to charge up your swings and pitches, and then swing it again to throw or hit. You can also bunt and throw different types of pitches like changeups or curveballs. You can even throw some pretty cool star moves when you're pitching or hitting. The standard baseball stuff is, well, it's baseball. If you don't know how to play baseball at this point in your life, I certainly won't be able to help you. The neat thing is that there's a lot more to this game than just what happens on the field. Once you've got a good collection of random characters, you gotta set your lineup. There's actually a pretty good amount of strategy that goes into this. Different players have different stats, and you need to pick guys who can fill all the roles you need. You need people who can hit hard, you need people who can run fast and field balls well, and you need a solid pitcher. Balancing your team just right is crucial to victory. And just like a real-life sports team, you need to be concerned about the personality of your players. Can everyone really get along with each other? You see, Super Sluggers has this chemistry system. When two characters who like each other are put together, either in the batting lineup or on the field, their capacity for excellence goes up. When batting, you get access to error items that can be used to keep the other team away from the ball. And when fielding, you can perform buddy tosses and buddy jumps to get players out. The chemistry system in its own right is a cool gameplay mechanic, but what makes it even more noteworthy is what it reveals about the relationship dynamics between our Mushroom Kingdom pals. Like, Mario has good chemistry with Luigi, Peach, and Yoshi, which obviously makes sense. That's his brother, girlfriend, and dad pet. However, what do Petey Piranha and Blooper have in common? What do these two have going on that I don't know about? It goes in reverse too, like Donkey Kong has bad chemistry with King K. Rool, because the man keeps ganking all of DK's bananas. Duh! But why does Birdo specifically hate Wario? What sort of untold beef do these two have with each other? The only other person Wario has bad chemistry with is Mario. What did Birdo do to cross Wario so much that he would be happier to work with the actual Luigi before he would work with Birdo? Balancing both the chemistry system and the stats are the essence of team building, and team building is the essence of baseball. I had a lot of fun trying different team combos until I had just the right one. Once you have a team of 9 players you like, you can challenge Bowser Jr. to a full game of baseball. And I forgot to turn on the mercy rule? Maybe I spent a little too much time optimizing my team, because dang, that's a legendary blowout. After you beat Bowser Jr., he'll throw a temper tantrum and call his dad, who you then have to beat in another full game of baseball. He's definitely harder though, but I had this game on lock by this point, so it wasn't too difficult to take him down. After this, the credits will roll, and you've now done just about everything there is to do in the first place. There are a few more things worth mentioning though. There are 2 secret ballparks you can unlock by buying the correct passes in the shops: Daisy Cruiser and Luigi's Frickin' Mansion. Much to my disappointment though, they aren't actually available to be explored during challenge mode, and there aren't more secret ball players to unlock at either stadium. When I first unlocked Luigi's Mansion, I was for sure that Professor Egad was going to be playable, but I was wrong. Still, the 2 ballparks are real solid picks for exhibition matches. You can also engage in the mini-games. You actually have to play the Yoshi one in order to advance the plot of that stage. Like any collection of mini-games, these range from fun to infuriating, and you're sure to have your own mileage with them. Some of them, like Wall Ball and Bowser's Pinball, are not only fun, but also imaginative uses for the game's baseball mechanics. Others, like the Bob-omb Derby, are less imaginative but still fun additions to the game. It's just a home run contest at the end of the day. Then you have the mini games that actually suck and I hate them. I mean, what moron created Donkey Kong's Barrel Blast? You can't aim these baseballs at all! The unlockable stadiums get mini games as well, and they are fine. I don't have much to say about them really. I should probably also mention the Toy Field, which is probably my least favorite add-on. I remember liking it as a kid, but looking at it now, this thing sucks. The idea is that you and up to 3 players are on a giant pinball board and the batting machine will only go through so many balls. If you aren't at bat, you are supposed to not only field the ball and stop it from racking up points for the batter, but also to keep the ball safe from the other players, as the person who holds the ball when the timer is up gets the next at bat. This has the makings for a really interesting game mode, but in practice it just sucks. If the fielders catch the ball directly, then you end up losing points, which means that one pop fly can sink your chances. Maybe if you've mastered the timings well enough to consistently get big points and put the ball where you want it, you can have a lot of fun. But I don't know why you would want to get that good. There are no rewards for this other than coins, which can be farmed in other ways, and the game mode itself isn't fun enough to warrant that challenge. With that, we can close the book on Mario Super Sluggers. It was really fun revisiting this game after so many years. Honestly, my big takeaway from this experience is surprised that we haven't gotten more of these. This game was a ton of fun, and there's a lot of areas that could be expanded upon for a sequel. Just the unlockable stadiums alone got my brain percolating with ideas for new characters and teams that could be added to the game. Each of the 6 main teams has a captain and sub-captain, and when you pick a sub-captain be your team in an exhibition game, they get their own team names. I've always thought it would be a cool idea to give the sub-captains their own teams, like an entire Luigi's Mansion team. Heck, if we expand it beyond just the sub-captains, there are a lot of options. There are definitely enough recognizable Donkey Kong enemies to give King K. Rool his own team. Yet, it has been nearly 16 years since this game came out, and there hasn't been a peep from Nintendo about a new baseball game, which I honestly feel is kind of a shame. In my opinion, this should be a staple of Mario spin-offs, just like tennis and golf. Which is why I really recommend that this baseball season, you take the time to play a game of ball with old Mario and friends. And with that, I hope you liked the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what else you want to see, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, bye.